The Garden Report is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
What's going on Twitter?
Here we go. Baylor Scheierman to the Celtics out of Creighton. There we go, baby. We got it.
There we go. Yeah,
we got Bobby's guy. Put the graphic up.
Put the board.
Put it up. Put him up.
Not the top guy, but the third one, the one that was available.
Bobby hits.
Was available too.
There he is, number 3, Baylor Scheierman.
So this is
Scheierman.
So this is very exciting.
Not the coolest guy on the list. Let's say that.
No, but this guy's skill set. Yeah, here we go again. What did we sit here a couple of years ago, Jimmy? They took Aaron Nesmith, and we all just sat here screaming, best shooter in the draft, and it didn't work out. But this guy has some real pedigree as a shooter. He shot 47% from 3 his last year at South Dakota State, which is where he started college. And it translated. He took 8 threes a game last year for Creighton. He played his last 2 years, played 5 years in college, so he's 23. But on 8 attempts a game last year, 38%. And these weren't little college threes right on the line. These are some real deal deep threes coming around screens, handoffs, 8 a game again, Jimmy. And he's not just a shooter, 9 rebounds per game. Monster number for a guy like that. You know, Hauser, that's not something he really ever brought to the table. And
wow, already with the Hauser trash talk. Look at that, Josue. It did not take long.
Yeah, man.
Somebody
champion Hauser. Wow.
And the passing
like
skills
Lincoln
here
right
too.
Now, passed out, has no idea that he's just been replaced. What's that, Bobby?
The passing skills here too are gonna surprise you, Jimmy. I know you're gonna go and do your YouTube highlight search. Look out for those transition feeds. Look out for those transition feeds, backdoor feeds. And you know what's pretty unique about him? I don't think the Celtics have a guy they can say this about, at least among their shooters. He's a lefty. So, you know, he's tossing those passes with his left hand, you know, across his body there. He's pulling up with the lefty stroke. I love this guy. His tape was really exciting. Now, the defense is shaky. The defense is shaky for sure here. Athletically, speed-wise, I don't know if he's going to be able to stick with some perimeter guys. Again, we asked this question about Hauser coming into, you know, his first year playing for them. I think it's something he can adapt to. You know, he's, what's his size? 6'6", 6'8" wingspan. And again, the rebounding, I think, is something that can make him competitive on that defensive end of the floor. And, you know, free throws, certainly no problem here, too, 88%.
Deep one.
I think this guy just
from 38% three-point clip is what 3-point percentage is what stands out most for sure. If you're the Celtics, right? I mean,
yeah, and there's him kind of getting beat off the dribble there, as you can see.
Oh, what the hell? Why are we playing that? I'm looking for
that. Well, that was Hauser when he came in, man. That was his highlight tape for sure. So you know, again, it's gonna take some time.
But again, a guy with decent size. He's not 6 feet, 6'2". This is a 6'6" guy with 6'8" wingspan. It's a competitive size for an NBA wing. Now, is he going to play this year? I'd say no. You know, you probably send him to Maine. He's on a guaranteed deal here, being the 30th pick, so he's going to have the Walsh type situation, the Walsh contract.
Here, the pick is being announced.
So, you know, I think he'll spend a lot of time in Maine this year, effectively trying to get used to that defensive system, trying to get shots up.
He wasn't
just trying to show what he's got.
He wasn't even at
I also think it's worth mentioning, Bobby. He attempted almost 300 3-pointers in his last season. I feel like sometimes that percentage can be kind of misleading, you know, when you look at like how many threes a player.
Yeah, I remember Nesmith, there was like 150 shots he shot 50% on or something like that.
Right. And then people were so like, you know, they clamor over that, but then you realize like here's a guy who shot double that, you know, and still almost connected on 40% of his attempts. So that's impressive for a college shooter. Well, at this stage in the NBA draft.
And again, he's 23. So
Can
this
he
isn't
play
a guy.
now?
Yeah, I'd say so if you really need him to.
Not for this team, but yeah.
You're gonna be leaning on Hauser again this year. Now,
yeah, exactly.
Do you go into restricted free agency with Hauser, as we talked about earlier? Try to get him on a deal that can, you know, sustain him a little bit there, more of a mid-level type deal rather than something that's a little higher when he gets to free agency. Maybe this gives you a little bit more room to try something like that. But again, I'm bringing back Hauser next year at $2 million. I'm rolling with him at that reserve spot. I don't think you mess too much with what's already going on here. But again, I really like this pick. A little surprised he's here. But one of the biggest factors for teams is age. And so that's probably why other guys got selected over him here. He's very old. He played 5 years in college.
Dude, that's insane. 2.5 years younger than 5 years in college?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
transferred from
He's on my plan.
It's a fifth-year senior.
He transferred from
I respect that.
He transferred from a lower level school. So the last 2 years he was at Creighton. He started at South Dakota State.
Okay.
Yeah, but see, that's what I want to see. Give me someone like that over a draft and stash guy, someone that you're not even going to see in the Celtics uniform from until like 2026 or whatever. Like, this isn't that. So I'm happy for this. I'm happy for the Celtics. I like this pick. This is good. I mean, again, I'm not, because the Celtics are a championship. They're coming back as a returning champion. I'm not expecting this guy to crack the rotation next season, but just to know that he's sort of in the funnel, you know what I mean? Like, he sort of had the potential to sit at the end of the bench. I think it's good, for the Celtics.
And what Brad say, right? If there's a guy they love, they'll pick him at 30. If there's a couple guys they're like,
Right.
whatever, they'll move back. And they clearly love this guy. They really like his ability to contribute right away if they need to.
They could have been shopping it. Maybe nobody wanted it. Maybe there wasn't anybody that jumped out to them.
That's certainly true, too. I think there's a lot of teams looking to move all over this draft. As you saw tonight, there were a handful of big trades. Nothing too crazy outside of Boston. But in the end, I think you end up with a pretty good player here.
Why?
You know what else, too? I feel like if the fact that the Celtics didn't trade down shows you that he was probably going to get picked within the next 5 or 6. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to risk falling too low and missing out on him. So, yeah, like Brad Stevens said, I mean, if they're picking this guy at 30, that means they really liked him, because there was either someone who isn't as good or it's comparable as this guy, or they're afraid that if they trade down to, let's say, I don't know, 36, 37, he wasn't going to be around.
Yeah, and he'll make $2 million this year. Same salary as Hauser. Which
so you missed out. You missed out on that second round. Yeah. I think that's what Celtics going to try to do, man. Like, if they can get someone in the second round, they're going to do that. And this is sort of that ideal situation here, but I'm sure they just couldn't get a partner to trade with like they did last year.
And we'll see. Are we going to get him on the phone tonight? We're going to talk to him tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on the email here. But
few people
I like this
one to Filipowski.
Yeah, I mean, Filipowski, here's the thing. You want a guy at center who's going to be a little bit more of an anchor, who's going to be able to kind of run your defense and do different things like that at that spot. I think there wasn't a bankable skill with Filipowski that you could really lean on. Again, this guy can shoot the hell out of the ball. 8 attempts a game, as Josue mentioned, like 300. He's just launching it, and he's hitting 38% of them. You add in the rebounding here, which, again, for a 6'6" shooter.
Math pick?
Not many of these guys grab 9 boards a game and 4 assists a game, too. So there's some playmaking element here, too. This is a pretty versatile offensive player. Can he get on the offensive glass, too? I think that's something they would love. And you saw Hauser, again, to bring it back to Hauser, who they're probably going to lose here next summer, I'd imagine. He played a lot in the finals, Jimmy, just because they needed that spacing with Tatum and Brown trying to get downhill. Like, they needed a guy who could pull someone out of the rim who was try to help them defensively against those guys. And that helped Boston a lot in the finals. So if or when Hauser ends up leaving here, you really need a guy ready to go. And they already tried last season. Remember bringing in Drew Peterson on that 2-way, and mixed results from him up in Maine. Didn't really shoot amazing. And not a guy with a huge three-point shooting pedigree anyway. This is a guy with a big-time three-point shooting pedigree here. And again, with range, he can really shoot from deep out there. So I like it.
Let's get the highlights up again if you have them.
Yeah, I think you should all feel pretty good about this one. Now, again, will the defense be so bad that he can't get on the floor? Is there no real room for growth here? Athletically, is he not ready for the NBA?
Little jump shot. Okay, quick release, lefty. Is that going to screw with some people, the lefty release there, Bobby?
I like the lefty pass. We got that little transition feed. Yeah, look at that. I love that.
Yeah.
That kind of catches people by surprise.
We don't look at these couple.
But again, these are
low
some of the
lights.
defensive issues there. Like, just trying to reach, getting out of position. But
We
more
go?
good passing.
Yeah.
Can he beat guys off the dribble?
Can he get the ball to the guys that we need him to get the ball to? We're not looking for him to drop 30 points here. We're looking for him to make the nice pass, find Tatum or Brown, get White in the corner, get Holiday in the corner. That's what we need from this guy. So,
All right,
if he's going to contribute off the bat.
Do you want KOC on Scheierman, who we always love on draft prospects?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so KOC had him going 27th overall. He was 24th on KOC's big board. Says smooth lefty shooter with deep range and some off the dribble skills. Calls him a big Brandon Pazinski, who of course was a good rookie for the Warriors last year. Versatile shooter who can drain threes way beyond the arc using screens, handoffs, movement within the flow of the offense. Capable ball handler who can attack closeouts. You saw that a little bit in that video there. Good touch off the rim and glass around the rim area. Can run a little pick and roll. Again, 4 assists a game. Not just a shooting specialist. Great feel for the game. Makes timely passes. Willing screener. Great rebounder for his position. And a solid defender who puts in excellent effort and plays attentively. If his athleticism continues to progress, he'll at least be serviceable on defense. The cons, not a great athlete. He only dunks in open space, and he's limited defensively with heavy feet. And he only had 29 blocks in 162 college games, less than 1 steal per game. So again, not an impact defensive player, but can he get by? Because there's some real offensive skills that excite you here. Again, I think I'm pretty happy with this. I think Josue's happy with this. How you feeling, Jimmy?
I just had to look up where Creighton University was. Does anybody know?
I don't know.
No idea. I had no idea, and it probably would have taken me 40 guesses. What state? This is gonna blow your mind. Nebraska. Never in a million years.
He's actually from Nebraska. Scheierman is. So
Omaha, Nebraska.
What?
Who knew that? Creighton.
How many balls come from Nebraska?
Their jerseys don't even kind of look like a Nebraska type vibe, but hey, Omaha, Nebraska. Everyone in the chat knows, obviously.
All right, now I'm going straight Jimmy mode. I got to find out how many players, how many guys made the league that from Nebraska. I know Fred Hoiberg from Nebraska.
Omaha.
Here's a little.
Who else?
I'll be honest. He kind of looks like a guy from Nebraska. It kind of makes sense.
Here's a little background on him, Jimmy. This is fun. So went to high school in Nebraska, of course, Aurora High School. He led them to a state title in football. 59 touchdowns as a quarterback.
Well, he grew up in Nebraska. I'm sure he played football. But yeah, he was good.
He set the state record for touchdowns in a season with 59. Also played golf. He had college football offers, but he chose to play basketball, and he was superb in high school as a basketball player.
He was a straight shooter. That's what it was. Someone put the ball in his hand one day, and just that was it.
Wow.
22 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists a game in high school. He was not recruited, though, which is why he went to South Dakota State. Came off the bench there in his first year and was effective as a rotation player and entered the starting lineup as a sophomore and became elite for that level. All Summit League in his second year there. He made it to the Sweet 16 in that, whatever.
I love how this has turned into like a 30 for 30.
I love this.
In that lower level, was it D1A or whatever there. Went again as a junior. They went 18-0 in their league when he was a junior. And then decided to transfer to Creighton.
Says he has 2 older sisters. A younger sister and a younger brother.
Straight bio right now. This literally is the
father. Scott played basketball at Hastings College.
The 30 for 30.
That's also.
What if I told you the Celtics is number 30th pick?
So here's the question.
Bobby nailed it.
Yeah, I was big on him. The tape flashes.
How about this?
A lot of stuff.
He declared for the 2022 NBA draft, but then he didn't go in. He instead committed to Creighton.
I'm just trying to get them to Hunters, Jimmy. You think that's in the cards?
Get who to Hunter Scheierman? Oh yeah, the family. It's
I
definitely the
guess.
Cards. Oh, they'll definitely be there. They will definitely be there, and I will be too. What else can we say about this guy, dude?
Will this guy become a Bobby Manning favorite in the vein of Luke?
Oh, Bob's ready to say bye
I
to
would
Luke,
say
huh?
he's probably
He's
a
getting
leading
ready.
candidate. He's probably a leading candidate. You do have an affinity for these types of guys.
I think he's on that radar.
Certainly got enough sisters for you to interview, Bobby.
2 sisters, you said?
3.
This is so weird.
3.
This segment's not gonna end. It's not gonna age well.
Let's say Bobby's interviewed with the Bobby's interviewed the Cornette family like one by one. He's got a lot of siblings
That's
to go
true.
here with.
No, I get the reference, but it's just funny. People who don't usually tune in, they're like, "What?"
All right, here's the questions with Scheierman because we've poured praise on his head, but again, he went 30th overall in the draft for a reason.
Hey, first round.
So here it is. His athleticism presents questions. Is he quick enough to defend? Is his first step good enough to maintain advantages when teams close out heavily on him? He doesn't have great lateral quickness, stiff hips, and he ends up playing square. He doesn't have much vertical pop and is slow twitch by NBA standards. He'll have to work toward maximizing his body and frame to stick on the court without being a liability. Ultimately, finding his defensive role will be an issue. He has enough size to hold up, but he's not wildly strong. He's just strong enough. Opponents might hunt him because of his athleticism, and due to his lack of quickness, he will not be all that switchable. He might be in a tough situation against wings with athleticism and could be a liability in space against quick guards. Seems to have heavy feet that make it hard for him to get going. They often try to play him on the worst offensive player or worst shooter so he could sag off and help or play near the rim as a rebounder. On top of that, he's not very disruptive. He knows where to be and just survived, and they were better defensively when he was on the court, but his minutes were largely mirrored by their big centers, who was, I guess, their defensive anchor. The tape doesn't match the results for his defense. When assigned to guards that can run him off screens, he doesn't stick tightly enough because of lack of speed. Change of direction can cause all kinds of issues for him. I'd expect a lot of flyby closeouts because he can't stop quickly enough. He's not a defensive playmaker, very low steal and block rates. He understands where he should be, but sometimes can't quite get there. Offensively, he's not a big shot creator, but that shouldn't be an issue. 2.2 turnovers, a little high for a guy who doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot. But again, offensively, a very narrow role. If they can find a spot for him on the defensive end and develop that side of the ball, I think these are weaknesses you can work with. Again, we're not talking about a guy like Mogbo, Jimmy, who wasn't even shooting threes, or some of these other guys who just have these massive holes in their games to where you're saying he might not even make the NBA. This guy's going to find a spot in the NBA. Now, he's a very limited role. Again, that Hauser success story is going to kind of screw him up a little bit, right? Because Hauser works so well. Like, is this guy going to be playing minutes in the NBA Finals one day? Probably not. But you need to start to build these guys up. We'll see what they do in the second round tomorrow. Of course, you have a big man need too here. I'm sure you're going to have multiple two-way guys in here. But the fact that they're giving this guy a 2-year contract at $2 million a year says something about how high they see him.
Yeah, I mean, Hauser had to work really hard because he was undrafted. So, that's
he spent the whole year up in
tough
Maine.
road. Yeah, right. And I think that
I could still spend time in Maine. Let's not get it twisted.
Well, yeah, I mean, my point is it certainly expedited his process, but he also just sort of got it when he finally got up here. Well, I shouldn't say right away, but it didn't take as long as it takes other players, right? Players that Celtics just didn't have the time for, in a sense of their championship window. And obviously a lot of those guys were traded for assets. I mean, traded for bigger pieces down the road. Now, what made Sam different was he committed to defense. He got out of the coach's doghouse, a couple of years ago. Then came Joe Mazzulla and sort of had to start all over again. But I think all of that helped him in a big way. This situation is going to be interesting because you're joining a championship team that obviously has already the role that they need for him in the future, right? And Sam Hauser. But you wonder how the next couple of years, how he approaches it. I would guess the majority of his time next season, this upcoming year, will be spent in Maine because he's not going to get much playing time. So it'd be better that way for him to get his reps in. And I think you go from there. But I think from everything that we've learned about him so far, that time frame that was very similar to Sam Hauser, I think is certainly in play. When you think about his experience and just where he's at, like Bobby said, 5 years and 5 years, right?
For who?
5 years for Creighton, right? Or did he transfer?
South
Was it all 5 years in
State.
Creighton?
No,
South
no.
Dakota State, then Creighton for 2 years.
Oh, okay, so he transferred over. So yeah, I think those are the guys who I feel like they're closer to their ceiling than others, especially when they had to fight those last 2 seasons to make a name for himself at Creighton. So I really do like this pick. I think it's more of a chance that he's ready within the next couple of years than someone that you have to wait longer for. But I do think that the majority of his time will probably be spent in Maine, but that's not a bad thing for the Celtics. You want him to be busy and working on his craft instead of just sitting at the end of the Celtics' bench. So
his first
so it's
team
good.
all Big East this year too. Let's not forget that. A couple of Creighton players. Mark.
Out in Nebraska, huh?
St. John's, Nova. Yeah. No, what am I talking about? UConn, Creighton, Marquette, Providence, Seton Hall. Yeah. So Big East is a fun conference. It doesn't get as much love as it should, I don't think. Obviously, it's gone through a lot over the years, but competitive conference, like the games that intense games. Hopefully, this kid's ready to embrace a loud atmosphere.
He's gonna have to work hard.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's gonna get. Let's be honest. We're talking about a guy who's gonna get garbage time minutes for a long time.
But again. What did we say about Hauser when he first got here, Jimmy? We're like, this guy's gonna play real minutes for them, and here we are a couple years later, and he's in the NBA Finals.
Years later, yeah, I mean, absolutely.
So this is the kind of development program they're working here, and they've had a lot of success stories in recent years. It's gonna be fun to pair him up with Walsh too, up in Maine, and just see those guys play off each other. Just add those guys to the mix there. So again, John chimed in here. By all accounts, there's a lot of buzz that they were looking to move here. And move back. That's been their MO under Brad. He doesn't take first round picks. This is guaranteed money. This is tax money, Jimmy. This isn't just $2 million this year. This is like $9 million.
Money out of Wick's pocket for this guy. We have some more highlights. Amit, hit the tape. Oh, we got some.
Jimmy's
real
all
highlights.
about the tape.
Look at this.
No low lights.
All highlights right here.
Oh, jeez.
So he can move. He can scramble.
He really is a
good passer.
He's in the football highlights?
Wow.
Yeah, you believe this shit?
Now, be careful, because if the Pats see this, it might not be the
Yeah, Pats could use some help.
Someone call Taylor.
We've got an athlete here. We can at least say that.
59 touchdowns, Jimmy.
Yeah, and you saw that. He was scrambling out there. He was elusive, athletic. So there's your rookie, Bobby. Got to tip our hat to him, Josue. Bobby had 5 guys to pick, and he hit on one.
Here we go.
He was in the top three. Yeah,
let's look at it again. Boom.
Yeah, we did delete one of them. Did you have somebody else on there?
Tyson, who ended up going to Cleveland.
He's down there. He's just covered up by our lower third.
He went like 20th overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's point out a couple other guys before we get out of here.
Filipowski's still on the board. He kind of slipped. Yeah, what do you got?
So there wasn't a ton in terms of whoa, but like we mentioned, Dadier goes to New York. Looks like he's not going to be stashed. So, would the Celtics even been interested in that anyway? Who knows? I thought Minnesota had a monster day. Terrence Shannon, who's this explosive, very physically imposing wing, 27. And they move up to, how high did they get? 8? They trade up to 8 to get Rob Dillingham, who's this shifty, quick point guard. Kentucky guards, man. What are we talking about now? Quickly, Tyrese Maxey. Is Rob Dillingham the next in that line? If that kind of guy is going to Minnesota, look out. So they made a very aggressive move going up to 8. So that Minnesota had a big day. Other than that, I don't know. Nothing. Khalil Ware to Miami. Miami keeps nailing these picks, Jimmy. rolling center in the Robert Williams vein, and he is comfortable shooting a 3 here or there too. So it's Miami finally getting some explosive play at center off their bench. That could be helpful for them. I like that pick a lot. Jared McCain, a shooter, breakout transition kind of guard, went to Philly.
The
so
TikTok
that's something to
star?
watch for. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
TikTok boy. He can go do his TikToks all up and down Philly. I'm sure the fans will love that.
And Jalen Tyson, again, one of my guys there, went to Cleveland. So their search for a wing continues with him. So those are the only real ones of note. Washington took a million guys. Nuggets got a backup center. So maybe Jokic doesn't have to play 48 minutes a game. We'll see how that goes.